Okay, guys. So one more time, we're going to go over Ingolstadt because it seems like a few of you are having some trouble. So the editor of a local newspaper has asked you to finish an article about using school uniforms. So let's just start by asking, what do you guys think of school uniforms? Good or bad? Just whatever your gut tells you off the top of your head. Would you like the idea of everybody in a school having to wear the same uniform? You can answer. It's okay.
Door judge.
No, I don't think so, because that'd be too
Not
much like
happening.
cadets or cadets.
Okay.
Can I put my answer
I
in?
think they're a good idea.
Yeah,
I think
I think there's both.
I don't know, because like clothing is a good way to express who you are.
But you don't have to worry
People can
about changing, because like when someone's like wearing a different uniform that you want, it like changes yourself.
But
It's
do
like
you,
not really
do you need
expressing.
to really express yourself every minute of every day at school, though? Well, like,
Use your
Yeah.
voice.
okay, well, what about, like, say you have rich people who want to express themselves, and then you have poor people who want to express themselves. So the rich people are going to be able to flaunt all their jewelry and their super expensive clothes. Where, like,
Well, I hope they have plague on them.
the people with a little bit less money can't do stuff like that. So then it's, like, kind of making certain kids feel like they're not as good as other kids. And you
I
guys
have
think
a
that's fair?
compromise.
You guys think that that's fair?
It depends on what they're wearing.
Yeah, it
Kinda like
depends on what kind of
cute
outfit they're
ones,
wearing.
Like, do you think it's fair for some kids to feel better than other kids?
No.
depends if that kid wants to feel crappy.
Well, I'm sure nobody wants to feel crappy. They just, maybe their parents can't afford to buy them nice clothes. And guys, I need you to not turn your cameras on, okay? Especially when I'm recording.
People can express themselves.
My internet's slow enough anyways.
Okay. So, I have fantastic news. It doesn't matter if you like them or not, because for Q1, you need to write pretending that you think they're a great idea.
Yay!
So what you're doing is you're going to read this article, and it starts off like this. Ingolstadt is in the middle of a crisis with green slime everywhere and people falling ill all around us. We must focus our energies on survival. We must support each other until a cure is found. School uniforms can remove one thing that can get in the way of this. Ingolstadt School should provide school uniforms and require students to wear them. And then it continues. One important reason why school uniforms should be required is that clothing can cause problems, such as envy, fighting, and insults among students. So you already have most of this assignment right here. So your assignment's going to start off, you're just going to, bam, copy and paste that. That's how you start it. Super easy, right? Then now what you got to do is complete the second paragraph, that's this one, by writing 3 sentences following the transition statement, that's this, and that use your evidence to support your argument. So you need to come up with 3 good reasons for school uniforms. So whether you like them or not, your job is to come up with 3 reasons why they're good and why they should be wearing them in Ingolstadt School. Tough, right? But it is actually a great skill. If you can learn to argue for things that you don't believe in, it makes it even easier for you to argue against them because you already know what your opponent is going to say. Trust me, this is a great skill to have. So you're practicing by doing that. That's Q1. And then do not forget to do Quester reflections. There's lots of them and they're for marks. So this is where you got to say what you actually thought. Did you agree with the thesis? Like, so the thesis is like the main point. Like, did you agree that school uniforms are good? Yes or no? And then tell me, do you think it's easier to argue an opinion that you agree with? So like, did you find it easy to argue for something that you don't actually agree with? And then explain why you feel that way. Plague Q2. So for this one, we're going to pretend that your fake mom is worried about some rumors she's hearing from Ingolstadt. It seems that her old friend, Victor Frank, has done some things in his medical research that have divided the townspeople. Your mom has heard that some people want to stop the doctor and run him out of town. Others think he is Ingolstadt's best hope for finding a cure for the plague. So you need to write a 1-paragraph letter. So we're looking at, like 5 to 7 sentences. And you're going to explain the debate so she understands what's going on, but you also want to flavor it. Like, it's to your mom. You probably haven't talked to her in a while. So, you know, like, dear mom, how are you? I love the cookies you sent. Or like, what? Like, just make it exciting. Like, have fun with it, okay? And then you're going to describe the debate. So you're going to say both sides of what's going on. And you're going to briefly describe the arguments on both sides of the issue. But you're not picking a side. You are not telling your mom what you actually think. You're not telling your mom what you believe or whose side you think is better. You are simply giving her the facts. Okay? And then here we have a debate. So this is set inside a restaurant. So you guys can read this. Do you guys want me to read it to you?
Yep. The one problem is, for me at
Yes.
least, it didn't seem like there's enough facts to write something on it.
That's okay. Well, I'll go over it and maybe this will help. Okay. So Stan, a grizzled old fisherman, came in through the front doors of the tavern, still cold and sopping wet from the autumn sea spray, which never seems to cease out by the docks. It ain't right, he grumbled to himself, chaining him up like some kind of wild beast and doing who knows what kind of experiments on him. Clearly distraught, he made his way to a table near the back. As the innkeeper made his way to the table, Stan continued, "If our decency and humanity is the price we have to pay for a cure, then it ain't worth it." Although he thought no one was listening, the entire room went quiet, and the tension was obviously growing. The innkeeper took it upon himself to reply, "That thing is a monster, not a man. And if you don't think the people here are worth saving, then you clearly aren't one of us, or welcome here. My daughter is sick, and I would do anything to save her, and everyone else from dying." With that, the entire room erupted into a shouting match, people agreeing with either side and screaming to be heard. It is clear that it is a very heated issue in the town, and that there are good arguments to be made for both sides. So what you can glean from this, guys, is that, Victor thinks he can save the town from this plague by doing a bunch of experiments on a creature that he has made, which it's humanoid. It looks kind of humanish, like Frankenstein's monster. And some people think it's right to do these experiments to try to find a cure. Some people think it's not right to be doing these experiments on a creature to try to find a cure. Because, like, you're not even 100% sure that he can find a cure. You don't know. He just thinks he can probably find a cure if he runs all these tests. So that's what's going on. And there's not a whole lot of facts for you to get. Like, you basically have all of them now. And if you forget any, please go back and listen to this recording. And if you still have any questions, you can always email me. And then here we have a letter from your wonderful mother. "My dear child, I hope you have I should probably do a mum voice, huh? My dear child, I hope you have arrived in Ingolstadt safely. I don't trust those trains. They go so fast. Have you had a chance to learn about the problems my friends have been hinting at through their letters? I'm very anxious to hear what it's all about. I know there's some disagreement going on among the people of the village, and I know it has something to do with dear Victor, the doctor doing the tests on the creature to try to save the town. But I don't understand just what all the fuss is about. As you read Victor's letter to me, it wasn't very clear. Please set your poor mother's mind at ease. Write me back and explain this argument that is tearing my old village apart. You don't need to tell me who you agree with. I know you haven't been there long enough to really make a decision. Just describe the arguments and list the reasons on each side. It will make me feel so much better to hear both sides of the story. Now, you go take good care of yourself in Ingolstadt, you hear? You may be immune to this terrible plague, but there could still be danger there. All my love. Your mother." Okay. There's my mom voice. Did I do good?
It was beautiful.
Thank you.
You talk fast when you use that voice. It sounds like a mom that's worrying.
True.
Maybe there's something I haven't been telling you.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay. So here you have goals. You can use these as a guide. So, like, you're writing a letter, only one paragraph, describe the issues, tell your mom at least one reason for putting each side. Please mute microphone. Thank you. Oh, mute your microphone. I think it's Elijah.
Oh, oops.
Thank you. Okay, tell your mom at least one reason supporting each side of the issue, and avoid telling her which side you agree with. Just give her the facts. And we have an example letter for you, so you can take a look at that if you need ideas for what it should look like. Then we have a reflection right here. So here's where you're saying like what makes the most sense to you actually, and then explain why you think that why each reason makes sense to you for each side. Here's an example reflection. I gave you guys lots of examples, so you can even use the examples if you feel like you need more hints or facts or help. That's totally fine, okay? Now, Ingolstadt Quest 3. Don't teach a fish to swim. So we're not talking to people you agree with. We're talking to people you don't agree with. You're trying to convince somebody of something. So when you're writing a persuasive essay, the goal is not to try to convince someone who already agreed with you. You don't need to persuade. You need to persuade those people who have different opinions. Don't teach fish how to swim. Don't preach to the choir. You know, that kind of thing. You guys are familiar with idioms. You're pretty pro at them by now, I think. This is a 2-paragraph section. So for your first paragraph, you're going to write a few sentences explaining which side of the argument your gut tells you to agree with and why. So before you read anything else, basically you're just going to spit out like 5 to 7 sentences. Tell me which side you agree with as a person. Without doing research, just like, what's your gut tell you? Is it right? Is it wrong? Why? Why not? Then, after you've written that, you're going to do a second paragraph, and you're going to read this stuff in blue. So you don't need to read that right now. I mean, if you already did, no big deal. Just do your best to like try to, you know, think with your gut and not that, and ignore that stuff in blue until after you've done your first paragraph. Then you can read that stuff in blue up there that's hiding now. Your explanation should be 2 paragraphs, 3 to 5 sentences. Choose a side of the debate. Is it wrong or right? First paragraph, you're explaining why you chose the side you chose. And then in your second paragraph, read the blue stuff. Tell me if you changed your mind. Tell me if you think that that kind of stuff matters. And then tell me if you still think what you thought before and why. If you did change your mind, explain why you changed your mind. And if you didn't, explain why you didn't. And there is no right or wrong answer. You guys can pick either side. You can change. You can stay the same. It doesn't matter. That is not what I'm marking you on. I have seen amazing work done for like all the different possibilities. Okay? So you put what you agree with and what you honestly believe as a person and tell me the reasons why. If you can explain why you think what you think, you're going to get great marks.
I just read the blue bit and that'll probably affect them.
It's okay. Just try to ignore it, okay? When you're doing the first part? Yeah. So whoops. Yeah, I try to, I mean, I know you guys are probably going to read it because I read everything too, right? But just do your best to ignore the blue stuff when you're putting the first paragraph in part 3. And then we have a couple examples here, so you can read those if you still need help. And then we have another reflection, okay? So it's like, have you ever, and you can respond to pick one of these, okay? And then tell me if you think it would be responsible to change your mind after you learn new information, even though it's more work to change your mind sometimes. Or you can tell me about a time in your life if you've ever like really thought something and then changed your life. Like maybe you think somebody's a huge jerk face and you can't stand them. And then after you get to know them for a couple months, you actually decide they're a real cool person, so you change your mind. Stuff like that. So that's that one. And then the other one is like whether you think it's responsible. That's Ingolstadt 1, 2, and 3 in a nutshell. Time to move on to 4 and 5. Because a few of you are already there. Oh no, screen sharing shop. I need to share my screen again. Okay, here we go. So for this assignment, I strongly recommend, and for the other one, pick a color like green or purple or red or whatever, and like all your answers, put them in that color. It makes it much, 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 much easier to find what you've written. Okay? Okay. I'm not going to go over this one quite as depthly as the first one because I'll go over this again next class just in case. But I will go over it a bit so those of you who are ready to do it can start. So this is where you get to really start making your argument. So you are going to be writing a persuasive article. So we're looking at a 5-paragraph essay. I know it sounds scary. I do not expect you guys to finish this week. I want you guys to start it, okay? I want you guys to start getting like the bones and the meat done. But do not submit it yet, okay? If you think you're finished, that's great. You can stop, But don't submit it because next week we're going to be going over excellent essay writing tips. So you have a first draft, which is probably great if you've already done it. Super good. But I'm going to give you guys tips and tricks, and I want you to go back into your essay. Before I mark it, before I look at it, I want you to go back into it and use the tips and tricks I give you next week to fix it up. So I want everybody to start this. I really want you to finish 1, 2, and 3, and I want you to start 4 and 5. That's your homework for this week. Yeah, there's lots of resources in Moodle I'll be going over next week. Make sure you're using transitional words and sentences effectively. We have lots of example stuff here. So, and it walks you through. It tells you your first paragraph. You are going to be writing a thesis or your statement. That's what you believe. Big thing when you're using persuasive writing is you don't want to use words like I or me. Like, you don't like, I think, la 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 la. Or like, the creature needs to go free because I believe. Or like, me, I. Like, don't use I or me. Be like, the creature must go free because it is wrong. Like, don't say things like I think, because it makes it sound softer. Like, you want to project your voice as though everything you're saying is a fact. So don't use I and me. Use facts. Lots of facts.
Is that just for the position statement? Can we use I and the other ones?
By the time you get to Q4, you don't want to be using I's or me's. Just facts. So your first paragraph, you're going to want probably about at least 3 reasons for why you chose what you chose, but you don't want to really explain those reasons in the first paragraph. You're just going to be like, going to tell me what you believe. Be like, the creature must be free, or like, he must continue his experiments. And then you're going to give 3 reasons. Don't explain them. Because you're going to explain your reasons in the next paragraphs. Dun, dun, dun. So, second, third, and then like you wrap up your first paragraph by just reiterating your statement and be like, this must happen. And say what you think must happen or whatever. Like I said, I will be going over and giving you guys lots of tips so we can polish it up next week. So if this sounds confusing, that's great. Just start, write stuff down, write what you think. We can get rid of the I's and me's later. That's fine. This is a first draft. So for your second, third, and fourth paragraphs, you're going to expand on those 3 reasons that you put in your introduction. So like 1 paragraph per reason. So say your first reason was, well, the creature is not really a human anyway. So it's like, man, whatever, we can experiment on him. Explain why you think that. Be like, well, what makes him less than human? What makes his life less important than other people's? Or like on the opposite side, be like, well, what makes his life so important that we can't, run these experiments on him for the good of everybody? And then, just explain the reasons and how they make sense to you. So you want to have aim for 1 paragraph per reason. So you want to aim for like 5 sentences per paragraph. A couple of you are modified or adapted, so I can work with you. I want at least 3 from everybody, though. I think that if you're modified or adapted, like 3 is pretty fair per paragraph. Okay? And if you need help, I'm more than willing to help and work with you guys. But I've seen all of you write. I've seen your survival stories. Like, you guys know how to write. And then your final paragraph, you're just summarizing your argument one more time. Like, it's like you're making a last stand. This is your last chance to try to convince people what you believe. So just summarize it real quick. Maybe use an idiom or 2, maybe an analogy. You want to make a lasting impression that people are going to remember, and you want to win people over to your side. So that is Ingolstadt Q4. And I'm going to tell you guys, do that, do the reflection. Don't do Q5. We'll talk about Q5 next week. I don't want this submitted. Fair? You guys can respond. Okay, so here's Q5 down here. Don't do this. I'll explain it next week. I want you guys to do 1, 2, and 3, and I want you to start working hard on 4. I think that's pretty reasonable, and we have 10 minutes. So, boys, you may talk about your giant robots.
Okay, sweet. So, right, I think it'd be simplest to get a web link and then show people.
Sure.
So I'll just dig one out that I showed Sam.
Go ahead. You can share. Just don't share your faces, okay? So like you can share your screen if you have a video or something, but don't share your faces.
Okay.
All right. Bye, guys.